Whereas Marianne Howard was first hired in October of 2006 as the front desk receptionist. Whereas Marianne Howard has served as the face of the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District for the past 13 years and greeted all who walk through the door with a smile. Whereas Marianne Howard created lasting and meaningful relationships with community members, customers, staff, and vendors of the district. Whereas Marianne Howard ran the district's information booth at the Chicken Festival every year and organized all the monthly birthday parties. Whereas Marianne Howard never let the office run out of copy paper. Whereas Marianne Howard never left the office at the end of the day without saying, "Anyone need the copier?" Whereas Marianne Howard worked with vendors to procure donations for It's My Park Day. Whereas Marianne Howard took great care to spend taxpayer money wisely, shopped the sales, and never met a discount she didn't like. Whereas Marianne Howard assisted the district in providing an essential service in the field of parks and recreation for 13 and a half years, while always living the mission of creating community through people, parks, and programs. Whereas Marianne Howard is a direct representation of why parks make life better. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District take official recognition of Marianne Howard's long and devoted service and extend to her this statement of appreciation for her service to the community of Fair Oaks. And be it further resolved that this statement of appreciation will be appropriately inscribed and conveyed to Marianne Howard, with a copy to be included in the official minutes of the April 15th, 2020 regular board meeting. So you'll have to let her know she's missing a great meeting. So we will move next to item 5, the audience and public comment for non-agenda items. If there is someone that would like to make a comment, we do have on the sidebar to the right, there is, if you're on a laptop, I'm not quite sure how it is on a phone, please let us know if you would like to speak, and we can, our moderator, Ian, who is the one tabbed at Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District, can unmute you, and you can have a turn to speak.
For the one person who's on the phone, if you want to make a public comment, press *9, and that'll raise your hand and it'll let me know that you want to make a comment.
Okay. I'm checking the sidebar, seeing that there does not appear to be a public comment. So we will move to item number 6, and that is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, all since we are all in favor and no opposed, we will move to item number 7, the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve. John O'Farrell.
And is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions regarding the items that are contained in the consent calendar tonight? Seeing that there are no questions, all in favor of moving to approve the consent calendar?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, none opposed, so we'll move on. We're moving to agenda item 8.1, and we're going to treat the agenda items just like we treated the public comment. So if there is an item on the agenda that you would like to speak to, please use the chat feature on the sidebar, and so so we can tell who would like to speak, and again, so that you can be unmuted. So for item number 8.1, this is discussion and possible action on the approval of construction of a dirt pump track at Phoenix Park using Measure J funds.
All right, board and Delinda, thank you all for being so accommodating in this meeting. So far, we're doing a great job. The item here in front of you is about the dirt pump track over at Phoenix Park. And the dirt pump track, you've had a presentation at your last board meeting, I believe, from Garrett, who is also at this meeting here now. And the bike park itself is a small skill park for kids that was constructed in 2017. In 2018, the Family Free Ride, which is a local nonprofit that was started, which is promoting and encouraging kids and families to ride bikes and advocate for bike facilities. At the February 2020 board meeting, Garrett McDermott was as a representative of Family Free Ride, gave a presentation to the board about possible funding the dirt pump track over there. The challenges or the problems and situations with this is that Phoenix Park is scheduled to see major improvements within the next couple of years. And so, which would include expanded parking, some irrigation improvements, playgrounds additions, and also possibly softball fields. Now, there is a proposal for the softball fields to be moved over to La Vista Elementary School, and that's where we're stopped right now on Phoenix, is because of the La Vista option for the softball fields. So it's stalled while we investigate that opportunity. If the ball fields are moved to La Vista, that property that we have over there in the park, and I will share my screen here real quickly to show you the size of that piece of property. Let me get there. So you should all be seeing my cursor here over the property that we're talking about, where the softball fields are, or proposed to be. This is undeveloped land at this point in time. This area right here is the current bike skill park, and the pump track is now incorporated, or a similar, not a real pump track, but a dirt track that the Family Free Ride had built is right around there as well. So it's not a pump track, it's a dirt track. They would like to make it a more permanent and more professionally built facility. If this space becomes available, it'll need to be repurposed. And one of the thoughts are potentially available is to put the bike park over here somewhere, including the skill park and a pump track somewhere in this area. There would be other things in here probably. I'll throw out some examples. Let's just say there was pickleball courts instead of ball fields. It could be anything, but that outreach hasn't occurred yet. But it could be that the bike component could be moved over here. So I'm going to quit sharing my screen here. And so that construction, though, and that idea could be 2 years away before we develop that space. And I guess one of the options that I looked at was potentially being able to move the bike park over there with the pump track and having it all built at the same time with the same mobilization and crew. So the financial analysis behind this is, if we approve to build it at its current location, it would be approximately, well, we would propose not to exceed $30,000. It would be done by a professional, it wouldn't be designed by a professional builder with the use of volunteers and the labor from the professional builder. And it could be started relatively soon versus 2 years if we were to potentially move it over to the pump track. And that's what I have right now. I can answer any questions about it.
Mike, I have a question. I noticed that we had 30,000 in the approval construction for the dirt pump track. However, in 8.4 in the capital plan, it shows the pump track at 50,000.
Good question. That was probably going to be for a paved pump track, a hard surface pump track.
So I don't know, though, if we want to adjust that or do something, because that just, obviously, it's a discrepancy. I just want to make sure
yeah,
it's all on the same page.
I did note that as well, Raymond, and I'm glad you picked up on that. I have a couple of questions of Mike, and Mike and I talked this afternoon. I guess question number one is, Mike, in your opinion, are there any obstacles that we're not aware of with respect to dealing with the San Juan district on the La Vista site that would preclude us from beginning the planning of the repurposing of that large area right now?
There isn't really anything stopping us, other than we have to go through the formal process of approval. We still have to go through design, and then we'd still have to go through all the CEQA and things like that that would be required before we did any work on the La Vista site. So there's still a lot of design work and things like that. That's why I'm saying that project is going to be slower. The softball fields will be slower than the possible redevelopment of Phoenix, because we know that Phoenix will have the parking as part of it no matter what. We know that piece of it. And so we should be able to move Phoenix a little faster than La Vista, because the other components of La Vista will need to be addressed, which includes design, CEQA, and all the other things like that.
So when you're saying it's going to be slower with La Vista, it's because of the administrative actions and the policy decisions by the San Juan board, or by basically some sort of redesign, rehab of the softball fields. I'm not sure what you're saying.
It's both. It's both of those things. That's what La Vista is up against right now. It'd be the approval from the board before we ever do any design, obviously, before we spend money. Approval of the board from San Juan and our board. And then we start sequencing the design and all of the other things, and the outreach for the public that would still have to occur around there. So all those things would have to come into line still. But the first step is getting the approval from the San Juan School Board. Did that answer?
Is that the answer that I want to hear? No, but that's your answer. So I'm fine with it. That is what it is.
Okay.
That's your point of view.
So my question is, how do we proceed with a design if we don't quite know the site? What are we asked to approve tonight? Just the budget?
No, we could put that pump track where the current skill park is, and as I was showing you on that Google Earth where the skill park is right now, the pump track is proposed right now to be built there, and it could be built there. It could. The only issue would be that if we have a better location in 2 years from now, if the ball fields are available, then we have that better location potentially for it. Doesn't mean that it still can't be moved over there, but we'd have to redesign the track again once we move it.
Would we move it or just expand it?
The only expansion that we could do really would be to move the full footprint over to that vacant land if the softball fields don't go. The footprint's not going to, if it does expand where the current bike park is, it would only expand by a very little. Probably not enough to make a big difference.
So what you're going to move ahead with on design would be for the existing site, with the idea that in a couple of years we might abandon that and move to the new site.
Potentially, that could be a potential option.
Okay.
Mike, Garrett said he had something to add to that.
I'd have to have Delinda that'd be directed to Delinda.
Garrett, do you have something that you'd like to add?
Sorry, I just lost him. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Garrett.
Okay, I'm unmuted. All right, so to answer the question as far as the dirt pump track and possible expansion into that area where the softball fields would go, the idea would be to keep, so the idea is to have the dirt pump track put in sooner rather than later, and it would still be more of a beginner pump track to kind of keep in line with the way that park is designed now for more of like the 2-year-olds on striders all the way up to like 4 or 5 or 6-year-olds. Ideally, it would be nice to keep it that way, and then when we go out to public outreach for the larger area where the softball fields would go, propose it as more of an advanced pump track for more of like the middle school to high school level. So we would keep both the dirt pump track where the bike park is now, and then potentially build out a better, well-built, and I'm not even opposed to it. I know I opposed the asphalt idea on the last meeting, but if we're going to look into building something more, I'm totally not opposed to doing something more and better over in the larger area. But I don't think we would be wasting the area now building a dirt pump track now, and it would also give us a sense of does the community want a larger bike park pump track over in that softball field? If we could build something now where it is currently, build that pump track now. Does that make sense?
I like that idea.
I have a quick question. So then right now we're saying though that this pump track would be done when other aspects in the plan would be done in Phoenix Park, correct? Or are we saying this would be done right away, not in line with anything else going on with Measure J in Phoenix Park?
I believe the proposal right now stands for it to be done right away.
Delinda, we have a Mike, or Garrett has another comment.
Oh, sure. Garrett, would you like to speak again?
Yes, thank you. So I've been working with a bike park builder, kind of one of the guys locally, and trying to get this ready to go. And he's actually on the meeting now, Alex Fowler of Action Sports Construction. And yeah, the sooner we can get this done, the better, I think, for everyone in the community. You guys saw that the work we did last year, putting in those dirt rollers, really revitalized that bike park. And I think getting it in as soon as we can, and it could even go in as soon as next month or the month after, would be a benefit to the community.
We spoke last meeting, I recall, about Garrett and his free ride group starting to raise some money to see what kind of interest there was from the community. And where do we have any update on that?
Am I still on mute? No. Okay.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. So I've reached out. I'm working with the Fat Track, with Folsom Auburn Trails Riders Coalition, and I spoke with the president at length last night. They're ready to possibly jump in to help out with funding. The idea that I would like to go forward with, since Family Free Ride is looking to take on a lot of the maintenance for the park, do the what do you call it, fundraising to help cover the maintenance costs. Fat Track is also looking to help out with that as well. So we can get it built very easily for the $30,000, and then the fundraising that we would do would help to maintain it. Anything that we would need on that side.
Okay. Yeah, my only other comment would be, is there, to save the cost down the line, is there sort of some way we could potentially meet in the middle and provide some dirt and improve the park that could somehow easily be moved if we did have to move it to that different location later? Or would we be talking about, in the scenario where we didn't keep both parks, let's say, and we expanded to a larger park that maybe included a toddler or younger age track, and then also maybe something that appeals more to like the teenagers and stuff like that? Is there something that we could do in the near term that would be somehow, take the dirt, move it over to the next one, where we're not just completely demolishing what we have now and starting over from scratch?
I'm not sure, Darren, to answer your question. So you're, just to make sure I understand what you're asking if we could, if we do build something now, would it be possible then to move it over to the other area if that happens? Is that what you're asking, Darren?
Yeah, essentially, is any of this stuff, I don't know, recyclable? Can we reuse this or repurpose this stuff that we invest in now to offset the cost of future building, or, move it over to that new location?
Of course. Yeah. And it's, it's just dirt, and dirt can be very cheap. People pay to get rid of it. And so when I'd spoken with Alex, the builder, when he builds the tracks for Sea Otter every year, he roughly estimates around 500 yards of dirt. I know that the area where the softball fields are must be a couple 100,000 yards of dirt. I don't know how much dirt is there, but and how that would be utilized, I think would have to be considered in the design and building of a larger area of a bike park there. But the biggest thing to understand is that the community around this bike park is getting it started now, and having the volunteers come out and help build it is going to help, light that fire. That's going to help support a larger area to ride bikes. And I think that's the important thing to consider here.
Okay.
I'm I agree with what Garrett is saying, and I also appreciate Darren's comments and other board members as well. My concern is that out of sight, out of mind, and if we don't make a commitment to do something today, in 2 years, who knows what's going to happen? The world could change. The world has changed fundamentally in the last 2 months. So what's not to say that there are other changes in the next 2 years? So if we're willing to move forward with something that will provide an opportunity for Garrett and Alex to do something really, really big for our community, which will really put it on the map, if somebody can make a motion to figure out how to move that forward, I will support that motion.
Well, would someone be willing to make a motion to essentially support entering into a contract or to approve the amount to not exceed 30,000 from Measure J funds for the design and construction of the dirt track?
May I add to that if as we move forward, if it becomes evident that we are going to be moving forward with the school district to relocate the girls' softball complex park, that we accelerate the process to work with Garrett and Alex and whomever, the community, his support group, to take whatever that next step is going to be.
Here's my take on it, if I can add. Over the years, we've looked at using that site where we wanted to put the softball fields as maybe a community center and other things. We've never really decided what we want to do with it. What I would support would be to fund the bike park on the site where it is right now for the full amount. Go ahead with that. And as Garrett suggested, if later we want to expand and have a more advanced track, or if we want to build a skate park, or if we want to do something else there, that we defer the use of that big parcel, because it is one of the few big parcels we have available for things that may come up in the future years. I think we can decide that later, but I would certainly support going ahead with the funding and the design on the existing site.
I concur.
Is this a motion? Is that your motion, Ralph, or do you want to make a motion?
I'll attempt a motion that we approve. I should read the staff report, but we approve the expenditure of $30,000 to do the design and proceed with building the. Hang on, I'm trying to get the wording here. Working on the phone here. To approve the not to exceed 30,000 from Measure J funds for the design and construction of a dirt pump track for bicycles at Phoenix Park. And that would imply on the site that we have there.
I'll go ahead and second that.
All right. Are there any other questions?
So, question on the motion. Does that mean that we're foregoing an opportunity to expand or build something new on the other side, Ralph?
I like Garrett's idea that if this proves to be successful, then when we know more about all of the opportunities on the big site, that we could do an advanced facility there, and maybe tie that in with other things that we don't know, like maybe a skate park or whatever. But just defer that decision on the big site. But go ahead.
With that clarification, as long as that's on the record, I'll support the motion.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
I'm in support.
All right. So if there are no other questions, I'll call the roll. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Seeing that there are none opposed, it looks like we're going to be building a pump track.
All right.
You are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. I know there's quite a few people that came for the pump track item, but you're also welcome to leave. It's up to you. So we will move on to agenda item 8.2, discussion and possible action regarding adoption of resolutions directing the preparation of the engineers' reports for the assessment districts, the Fair Oaks Parks Maintenance and Rec Improvement District, Phoenix Field Landscape and Lighting District, and the Gum Ranch Landscape and Lighting District.
So hi, I'll be taking that one. I'm Jennifer Larkin. I'm the Administrative Services Manager for the district. And this item is something that usually comes to you guys in March, but we didn't have a March meeting, so you're seeing it now. This is the first step in our 3-step process to get assessments on the rolls for our 3 assessment districts. This year, SCI has recommended the large overlay district, which is the Fair Oaks Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District, at an assessment rate of $39.06 per single family equivalent unit. The Phoenix Field Landscape and Lighting Assessment District would be levied at $154.58 per unit, and Gum Ranch Landscape and Lighting District would be assessed at $215.76 per unit. That money will, for the overlay district, the total revenue would be $532,000. For Phoenix Field, it's $56,500, and for Gum Ranch, it's a little under $41,000. And so tonight, we're just asking you to approve these 3 resolutions, which will allow SCI to go ahead and start doing their engineer reports, which you will get in June. And once those are approved, there's a public hearing in July. And then once that's done, the assessments will be placed onto the tax rolls.
So I have a quick question, Jennifer, for the assessment district for Gum Ranch. If it does change, will they just be able to, because that would not occur until after the May meeting, most likely,
Correct.
or June. I'm not sure when it would actually take effect. Could they then just kind of roll in that change, or how do we have to order a whole new engineer's report, or
a whole new engineer's report and a whole new assessment district, I believe.
Okay, and they would do that, but we're not, are we paying for it twice, or are we doing it twice? Because we're doing one right now with this.
No, this is just for what's already there.
Oh, okay.
Question is the last item on the, on the action item agenda, that's to set the assessment for, Gum Ranch 2 or the other 2 parcels, correct? At $150?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
So there's no benefit to be derived from delaying the Gum Ranch one until we know that the assessment district's been increased. Is that correct, Jennifer?
That is correct.
Then because all of this is basically mandatory and fairly routine, I would like to make a motion or 3 motions, however you prefer.
You can do it all in one.
Good.
Okay, I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 041520-01, directing the preparation of the engineer's report for fiscal year 2021 for the Parks Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District. That we also adopt resolution number 041520-02, directing the preparation of the engineer's report for the fiscal year 2021 for the Phoenix Field Landscape and Lighting District. And that we adopt resolution 041520-03, directing the preparation of the engineer's report for fiscal year 2021 for the Gum Ranch Landscape and Lighting Assessment District.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions? All right, seeing there are no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, seeing there are none, we will move forward.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so we are moving to item 8.3, discussion and possible action on approval of the Swallow Way Park Plan and Budget. Is this you, Mike? I think you're mute.
You mute.
Mike, you're muted.
There we go.
There,
Sorry about that. This is for the Swallow Way Park. It's basically the estimated budget for it. And you've seen the design, you've seen everything on it so far. this allows us to move forward with the construction documents and beginning the process of getting this thing out to bid and start construction. We met on March 6th with the capital committee, and the estimated budget overall is $881,904. And the capital committee recommends that we take $200,000 of that out of Measure J, $200,000 from Prop 64 funds, and I'll explain that in a minute, and $381,904, or the balance, from the district's parks impact fees. So that's how the park would be paid for that $881,904. We've had numerous community outreach meetings on this park. We've done design, preliminary design. We'll start construction documents when this is approved, as I mentioned. And the Measure J money, again, that's coming from the Measure J, the $26.9 million bond measure. The language that allows us to do that is to improve parks and recreation for children, families, and seniors, protect open space, improve safety and security, repair park bathrooms and upgrade construction, renovate and expand park facilities. So we are within our bond projects authority to do that. The $200,000 from Prop 68, we will receive at the minimum $200,000 from the per capita program, and will receive a minimum of $250,000 from the RIRE, or the Revenue Infrastructure Revenue Enhancement, or the Recreation Infrastructure Revenue Enhancement Program. So that's $450,000 for state money that we would be receiving, and we'll take $200,000 of that and pop it into the Measure J. That money, that $200,000 from Prop 68, has to be matched from district funds, and we easily match it with Measure J and the impact fees. The $381,904 from the impact fees, our current balance of impact fees is $1.8 million. So it puts a dent in that fee. So
Mike, what was that number again? What was what is the total impact?
It is $881,904.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we're asking the board to approve that budget, and with that breakdown.
If there are no questions, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation with the funding as noted.
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay, looks like we're also gonna build a park.
Good.
All right, so moving on, agenda item 8.4, discussion and possible action on fiscal year 2020 to 2021 capital plan.
That would be me. Good evening, everybody. My name is Katie Koss. I'm the Recreation Superintendent for the district. The capital plan 3-year process began way back in 2014 in terms of presenting in 3-year increments. And this is actually the start of a new 3-year period for us. But every year we come back with that year's plan and meet with our capital committee, which we did on March 6th, and go over some of the proposed capital items we'd like to look at for the upcoming fiscal year, as well as show the remaining projects for future planning. I did type in the notes section for the chat, but the reason of the difference between the 50,000 and 30,000 for the bike park was that we originally put in the plan 50,000, and that was what the capital committee saw on March 6th. However, that changed after that, but we don't normally change the spreadsheet prior to the board meeting just because we reference the approval from the capital committee at that meeting. So we don't want it to be a different document than what they approved. So that answers your question on that one and why they don't match up, but they will after this meeting. I think I will share my screen unless I shouldn't, but I'm going to share my screen just to show the spreadsheet. For those of you that don't have it right in front of you, and hopefully this works. Can you see the spreadsheet?
Got it.
Got it? Okay. So as you'll see, and this is what the committee saw on March 6th, the top box is the proposed projects for 2020, 2021. A lot of these projects have been on the spreadsheet for a few years, and we rotate through them each year. But as you can see, it's only at $245,000, obviously, because we have a lot of Measure J projects coming down the pipeline this next year. So we did not pack our proposed capital plan too heavy because of Measure J. So as you'll see, we've got the preschool restroom and flooring renovation at $100,000. The restrooms need to be made ADA accessible for the children there, and the flooring is uneven and due for an update. We've got the Phoenix Park pump track, which we addressed already, which will be altered to $30,000 based on the approval that happened tonight.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
The pump track, since it is going to be under Measure J funds, should probably be shifted over to the Measure J projects and taken off the capital.
Absolutely. And great point, Mike. We opted, definitely based on board recommendation as well as direction from Mike, to move the Measure J projects out of the capital plan because they obviously come from a different funding source as well. So I will make sure to do that when we alter the spreadsheet after tonight's meeting. Item number 3 is the Miller Park paving behind the tennis courts, which is estimated at $75,000. Obviously, depending on if that hits this year or if we push it back to a different year, the cost to do that, paving cost always changes, seems to always go up, so that could change. But that was based on recent estimations for that small lot behind the park tennis courts. And the reason is because of the dust from the gravel, the cars going in there that gets on the tennis courts, and it actually decreases the lifespan of the resurfacing. And then project 4 is the Miller Park Picnic Pavilion, which is to basically replace the existing barbecue area, which is much smaller than the proposed 75 by 150 feet. It does not have a cover over it right now, so if you've eaten there, you're sitting under olive trees with some older barbecue pits. And so the idea was it does rent out basically from spring all the way through summer until the rain starts. We rent that every single Saturday and Sunday. So just looking at upgrading that facility. And there's an error on it. And I noticed that right now it should definitely be much more than 20,000. So I can't believe we all missed it. We all missed it. It should be 150,000. So I'm not sure how the 20,000 got in there. That's a typo on my part, so I will alter that. And then the projects below in green are just proposed projects as we move through the next 3 years. Any questions?
So the reason
number 7 on pending projects, Miller Park tennis court resurface, didn't we just do that in partnership with the Fair Oaks Tennis Club?
It's almost been 5 or 6 years since we resurfaced that court, and they have a lifespan of approximately 10 to maybe 15 years at best.
So I'm assuming when we get to that point, when it's needed, we'll try to enter into a new partnership with them?
Yes. Yep. And we've already talked about not only that, but looking at possibly setting up a fund. We already collect fees from the Racquet Club, but setting up an actual lighting fund that would come from that as well.
Good.
So a couple questions, Katie, on the parking behind the tennis courts. Does that include paving the road all the way out from Kenneth to the parking areas that are there, or is it just the parking pads?
It would be the parking lot itself, just the whole gravel area between the courts 7 and 8 and Leggett.
So there would still be a gravel path from the road though, right?
No, literally when you drive off of Kenneth would start the paving, and it would go all the way through to that skinny part that's our ADA parking spot right now.
Okay, so there'd be no driving on dirt any longer. That'd be good.
Yeah.
And I presume the reason why the remaining projects are there is because of the staff's limitations on being able to manage so many projects, because we have the money to do all of these things. We just don't have the ability to oversee and design and all that. Is that the logic?
That is the logic. I mean, that's based on our discussions, is just the staffing capabilities, especially with Measure J projects coming. Even though we have ICS as our construction management firm, it's still going to require a lot of staff time and effort to help push those projects forward, as well as move things while those construction projects are occurring. So
right,
didn't want to overload the projects.
And it raises a question to me. Most of these projects were identified before Measure J, but we know through Measure J, we've got a lot of little nickel and dime projects we want to do. When is the capital program going to inventory and account for all of those things? Is that planned for the future?
I could probably address that. Those little projects that we're talking about, let's just use number one on the remaining projects, the Phoenix Park Dog Park improvements. Those may shift over to Measure J. It probably, the earliest that would happen would be a year and a half or 2 years from now, because the bigger projects, for example, Phoenix, or not Phoenix, but Village Plaza Park, the clubhouse, the theater, those are what's going to take basically this rest of this year up, and then we'll probably start investigating these smaller projects. You did see one just pop out of there, is Phoenix Park pump track that just popped right out of there today. So it is possible that you might see some of these pop out earlier as we get closer, or as we get some community input or partnership money or something like that that allows it to happen a lot faster.
Right, I understand that aspect of it. I guess what I was stressing is we probably have in the back of our mind a lot of little projects that need to be done. And because this list was done, I believe it was done before Measure J, that maybe we should make an inventory at some time, not immediately, but make an inventory of all those capital projects that could be candidates for doing with whatever funding we have available.
Okay.
And the other question I had is, when we redo the Miller Park picnic area, as you know, I was going to rent that, and it's in fairly good shape. Are we going to tear that out and build a brand new one, or are we going to supplement it and renovate some of the stuff that's there? Because if we're renting it full time, why not keep it and add a second one in the vicinity and make the neighbors there really upset?
I'll let Katie answer that one.
I mean, Ralph, all I can speak on is based on our discussions is the current pad and tables, they're not ADA accessible. So we were trying to create a full structure that's actually accessible with a pathway from the parking lot. I don't know if there's enough space to keep both, and I'm sure we can certainly look at that. It's just the option of having a fully accessible rental facility for all the people that rent it and their party guests.
Right. So I guess these are design issues. As long as you've got 150,000 in there, they can all be deferred till later. So that's the end of my questions.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
There aren't any.
With the edits in mind, sorry, Delinda, I apologize. With the edits in mind, obviously, to the pump track, moving that to Measure J, and obviously correcting the Miller Park Pavilion to 150,000. If there's no other questions, I'll leave it to Delinda.
Okay, so like Katie said, if there's no other questions, is there a motion to approve the 2020 to 2021 capital improvement plan?
I'll make the motion to approve the plan with the elimination of the pump track and the increasing of the picnic pavilion to 150.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Or I'm sorry, are there any other questions? All right, if there's no other questions, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, 0. All right, so we'll move on. Thank you. Thanks, Katie. So our next item is agenda item 8.5, discussion and possible action on the approval of the 75th anniversary celebration plan. So is this Sean?
I'll let Sean take that one.
Okay.
Hello, yeah, that's me. Good evening, Board of Directors. I'm Sean Ventura, Park and Facilities Manager. So this year is our 75th year of being a Park and Recreation agency. As such, we felt it was an appropriate time to hold a celebration, kind of let everybody know in the community that we are 75 years old now, and kind of do something to gather the whole community around, COVID-19 willing, of course, and just do something nice where everybody could get together and have a good time and celebrate our achievement of lasting this long. The proposal we have so far, as the board report read, we're estimating over the course of the week-long celebration we're proposing would cost about $17,000 to throw. Some of the events we're proposing at this point would be very small neighborhood park gatherings, scavenger hunts held by single-family units or individuals throughout our park district, plaques being made of the founding dates of individual parks and having those mounted up in the parks on at this point we're thinking of large boulders, but the mounting points can be very fluid at this point. And all culminating after a week, starting in the beginning of October this year, on October 8th, which would be the actual anniversary date, where we would have a groundbreaking ceremony in Village and Plaza Park to celebrate the Village and Plaza Park renovations we're planning there. That event would have some speeches by the board, perhaps Mike, food and drink, and just get the community out and celebrate the kind of rebirth of the park district as an art center of cultural arts in the Sacramento County area. As such, we're planning on having such events as sidewalk, chalk art, potentially some other larger items. There's been talk of a flyover by the Air Force as well. Get the big golden shovel out and throw some dirt, as we've been saying it. At this point, we're looking for approval to really officially begin planning it and outlaying funds on this project. As of right now, it's all brainstorming and getting ideas together, but we'd like your go-ahead to fully begin prepping for this project and starting to plan these events.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, some of us on the board, I won't mention names, but some of us are close to being as old as the Park District. So we can look at that in a very, very favorable light. I guess my only concern is that if we're not out from under the COVID-19 cloud come October, then we're going to have to be very careful about how we plan and what we do. But I'm going to be optimistic, and I would say throw a wide net. And in terms of elected officials, I mean, you see your park board every day or every once a month. Let's get Susan. Let's get reach for the sky. Maybe Gavin, because he's a neighbor now. Maybe he might want to come as well. So let's make it a real big deal. Maybe it'll be a true celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and there's been talk of doing just that, aiming for other people in the government community around here. We would like to make it something to remember.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with everything that John's saying. Definitely, our assembly person or senator or supervisor, definitely trying to get the governor, since he does live in Fair Oaks. Just my one thing to add, that again, I've said from the beginning that I'd love to see it. I think this would be a great time to see it, if of course issues with COVID, don't affect it. But with that big celebration, again, a community meal, a community dinner, I think would be so exceptional. I'd really like to see that worked in some way with this. Oh, sorry. And so anyway, that would be really awesome to see some sort of community meal. Everybody brings their own food, but we give a space where people can come together and celebrate each other in the community.
I like it.
Sounds like a great idea.
Well, I certainly like the idea. I presided over the centennial in 1995 when we had monthly activities and culminating in the burial of the time capsule under what's going to be the dressing room of the new theater. So I'm very supportive. I especially like the idea of celebrating things that have happened since 1945, major events like when we built the theater, when we acquired parks, when we went from being a dependent district under the Board of Supervisors to being an independent district, and all of those things that nobody, including ourselves, generally know about. So I'm very supportive. In the centennial of Fair Oaks, we had a committee, an organizing committee that had representatives from various groups. And I wonder if if you want to consider reaching out to, say, the Chamber and the Historical Society and others to get some input on this. But I really love the concept. I'm very supportive.
Yeah, and if I could speak to that real quick, the goal of this whole thing is to make it a major community event. We've already made plans to tie in a lot of the both original and newer community partners in the area to help with these events and be celebrated as well. So we're on that path already.
And I'm sure, Sean, with that we can get a lot of the businesses to chip in, probably when it comes to the scavenger hunt, to maybe, you know, sponsor different prizes and things. Just again, add to that community and collaboration and whatnot.
We need to find somebody to contribute some champagne, I think.
Who might that be?
I might know something.
Well, I certainly look forward to attending. I think it's going to be great. So fingers crossed, October 1st happens. Are there any other questions?
Do we need a motion on that? Or have we done it?
I think we need one. Right, Jennifer? Okay.
Also move that we support the staff recommendation for approving the preliminary plans, and it just went off. And for the anniversary celebration with a budget estimated at $17,000.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Perfect. All right. Moving on. We are going to go to item 8.6, which is discussion and possible action on approval of using Measure J funds to improve the Fair Oaks Amphitheater. So I think this is this you, Katie?
This is me.
Okay.
Yeah, this is me. And then also Sean assisted with this board report as well. Unfortunately, as I think everyone knows, based on the beginning of this board meeting, we did not get Prop 68 funds for the amphitheater portion or any of the portions for the Village Park project. And so what staff is doing is coming back to the board and asking that 5.9 million to renovate the amphitheater be folded into the overall project and be funded by Measure J. Obviously, background is, you know, the amphitheater went through all of the outreach meetings as well to get feedback from the community and rated very high in terms of the community wanting to see that as a part of the overall project on some level. And so, you know, what that project comes with is obviously an enclosed black box theater, multi-purpose rooms for acting classes and preparation for plays, storage, separate public restrooms, a theater lobby, stage improvements, and a raised patio facing Plaza Park, which could also be utilized as an outdoor stage and place for the Christmas tree in the future. And so it really does sit right in the middle of the whole Village Park renovation project. And so staff is asking the board to approve tonight the 5.9 million for the Veterans Memorial Amphitheater portion of that project. And as you can see in the financial analysis, the overall estimated budget for the project is 6.9 million with 5.9 added to it for Veterans Memorial Amphitheater, as well as potentially the clubhouse renovation, which I believe is still on the agenda for this evening, for estimated 1.2 and so it'd be 14 million for the overall project.
Katie, if I can interrupt, and I probably provided those figures to you for Village Plaza Park. It's actually 7.4 million. I just reconfirmed those today.
Sure.
So there is a slight difference there. I just wanted to make sure the board's aware of that.
What was 7.4?
The Village Plaza Park renovation right now is estimated at $7.4 million. And I believe this was done before, that estimation is 6.9, it looks like the figure before the salon building became part of it.
I've got a couple questions. I thought long and hard about this, and I was very supportive of the as the board was, doing the redesign of the amphitheater back in the day, and then, you know, going after the grant. I guess the question I have is have we given a thought, we thought about the use, but have we thought about different programming to attract a different group of people? Fair Oaks is very diverse, and right now, the theater company, they do a great job, but they have their regulars, and so right now we've got 4 or 5 productions during the year and a couple of comedy shows, and that's it. So I support this, but I really want to understand where we're going to go with it.
Sure. Excellent question, John. Actually, we've also met with Barbara Sestito, who I know is on the call, but we have met with her twice now to discuss the amphitheater in relation to everything that's moving. Staff has met with Mike as a team multiple times to discuss the ways in which we can program in that facility. Not just acting classes. A lot of that also came out of the Prop 68 application in terms of how are we going to use that facility. A lot of it also ties into the art program that we hope to kick off here in the next 2 years in terms of art classes. And that could be musical art, that could be hands-on drawing, painting, art shows, anything that you can charge a ticket for to go into that theater. For any of those features, whether it's taking a class, attending a show, putting on an actual art show yourself, and other actual just recreation style classes that would work in that facility during those down months because of those indoor classrooms and because it becomes a black box theater. As you know, we have our existing acting class, New Star Children's Theater, and it's probably our highest revenue generating class for the district. So we would like to either expand those classes with Dana, our instructor, or continue to find recommended instructors from Dana that also do additional theater classes for different age groups, because they are very successful. So we have a laundry list of program ideas.
Are we talking about another music venue, or are we talking about,
yes.
So most of that was still around kind of conventional theater. So I'm curious about, where we're reaching out into other areas in terms of providing some different opportunities for, I'm not sure what they are.
Sure. Arts and entertainment is our focus. So, the entertainment portion is other concerts or smaller concerts or different style concerts. And Mike can definitely chime in on this as well in terms of things we've discussed that relate to the arts and entertainment feature. But we've got a laundry list, and I apologize that I didn't bring that with me to give you more specific examples.
I think, though, what John's getting at, and I agree, is that there needs to be more monetization than around just art programming. We need to have a wider use that we're now spending, $6 million for. And, I'm in support of this as well, but I'd like to see a pro forma on how we're going to be monetizing this throughout the year and what we're doing besides but in addition to the plays, in addition to some art programming, what are we doing? What kind of classes? What kind of speaker series? I was thinking a speaker series. What a great place to do some sort of speaker series on different things, So just getting out of the box and into the black box into what more things can we be doing that are not just arts related.
Yeah, I'll jump on there real quick too. As far as, what are we exploring? But like John said, concert revenue is huge. And what could that possibly look like? Also concessions during those venues, where does that go, or what do we look at? What do we look like there? Because I think between adding, 10 or 15 concerts a year and the concessions, the beverages that are consumed, is there plans in process for that? Because that could make a giant difference in how we look at that on a year-to-year basis.
If it's okay, I would like, we need to do a pro forma. That's actually essential for all of this. But I think that pro forma would need to encompass the entire renovations of the park, the clubhouse, and all the other usages around that. So it becomes a cohesive unit. So if it's okay with the board as part of the development of these major projects, that a pro forma be incorporated into the whole thing and then loop it all together.
I'm fine with that, Mike. I would agree with you that we have to look at the other, you know, the other elements of the Plaza Park. This is going to be the jewel of Fair Oaks when it's done. And so let's just make sure we do it right and we have the right programming and we make some money as well to, you know, Raymond's point and also to Darren's.
Well, I concur with all those comments. I think that's very, very good addition. I've been very supportive of the theater. I think it's as John says, it's the jewel of the village there, or can be the jewel of the village if we polish it up a little bit. And as far as priorities, you know, we have never had a very firm idea of what a community center might be, but this function as a venue for activities and classes and meshes with our idea of making the village a venue for the arts. So I'm very supportive of, even though we don't have the prop money, to go ahead and use our own funds and make the downtown venue there shine as best we can. So I'm in favor of spending this money. I think it leaves us enough to do the other projects that are high priority that we want to do.
Is it reasonable to say that we could almost rebrand this as a community center if we make some tweaks to it?
I think so. You know, we talked earlier today about you know, doing more about the seating to make the seating a little more comfortable. I wonder if there's a way that I know this is a radical thing, but if there's a way that it could have temporary covers over it for inclement weather use. Certainly the amphitheater is unique and you see the stars, and I think we want to maintain that. But yeah, I agree with you. It would, especially with the black box theater, it's going to open the opportunity for a lot more activities than just the open air stage.
I think I agree with you about that, Darren. I think one thing, thinking in that vein too, and just Sabrina posted just some of the other ideas, which I think are great: weddings, fundraisers, private rentals, graduations, etc. And what I think we need to think about, and next phase, looking at the design, what should there be some tweaks as far as the design or the size or where this is or that is, so we can get the most functional to be able to do events like that, and rentals. What are the things that people would want for rental? You know, maybe it's smaller, what is it, you know, costume room, or maybe it's just designed differently or something where at least a lot of multi-use spaces. I just would like to make sure that the way things are designed, it's more multi-use, and, you know, maybe even like with the costume room and the men's dressing, maybe make it so hypothetically you could make it into one larger room. You know, I'm just thinking of what we could do to make it more viable and more attractive for more uses. So I just think we need to be cognizant of that going forward with this.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree too.
I'm happy to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation with, you know, with as long Mike and staff have heard what each of the board members has said, but to at least begin the plans to move forward with all three projects.
Well, I want to be in on part of that motion, like a second, but do we want to hear any comments from the public that is viewing here? Has anybody asked to speak up?
So far, I don't see anyone on the chat that's said something, but is there, if there is anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item, please send us a message and we can unmute you so that way you can speak.
And do we need
Looks
to,
like
Gary?
Gary.
All right, Gary.
Gary, you're unmuted.
I can't hear you guys, sorry.
Well, I can read your comment though, and it just says that there is a proven concept for historical revenue for the concert series. Oh, so from Gary, you're talking about the ones that you do during the summer? He says yes.
Yes.
The only thing I would add is on approving this motion to move forward is it going to be predicated on seeing a pro forma?
I think it should be. I'd like to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I think we can get the pro forma kind of simultaneously going with the construction documents. It really depends on who we have do the pro forma. If we're doing it in-house, which I don't recommend, I recommend that we bring a third party in to do the pro forma, but I think it would get a much a higher quality product than us doing one. But if financially we can't afford to do that pro forma, we could potentially do it in-house. But I'll begin looking for an opportunity to have someone help us create that pro forma.
And refresh my memory, Mike, our architect is still, we don't have working drawings yet, so our architect can tweak things a bit if in going to the working drawing phase, huh?
Yeah, and yeah, I think so. And what I'm hearing, really just making sure we have usable spaces, multiple opportunities for those spaces. That's one thing I'm hearing right now that I want to make sure I pass along to the architect. And so that would be the one thing right now. And I know he's aware of that. I just want to reiterate to him that is an essential piece of this puzzle.
I would say reiterate as making the space as multi-purpose as possible.
Right.
Well, and I think the other thing that's important is right now we have a limited season. We're running from spring until fall, and to what Ralph's point was, is there some way that we can use the broader space on more of a year-round basis without spending a whole lot of money?
Yeah, I agree.
So with that, I would like to make that second to the motion. If does it preclude any more comments from anyone?
If there's no other questions or comments, shall we take the vote? All in favor of John's motion with the approval? So just be clear, John, it's the approval of using the 9.5, or I'm sorry, the 5.9 Measure J funds, but we will be receiving a pro forma from staff.
Right, but I mean all three elements,
Yes.
5.9 for the theater, the 7.4 for the village park, and the clubhouse, I'm assuming is still 1.2 because they're all captured in the same report, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, we do, and Mike, I would encourage that you try to find some money to get somebody that can do this. I'm sure that there are folks out there that probably would love to be able to do this, and I'm sure there's some people that are out there that are, they're not working that would love to get a contract.
Right. I want to be clear too that at this point it is on your agenda later here, but the clubhouse renovations have not been approved.
Okay.
So okay. So your motion, I'm sorry, John, can you clarify?
Mike, are you asking us to just approve the $5.9 million?
Correct.
They're all included in one staff report, so that's why I assumed it was the package.
Yeah, no, this is just for the theater.
That's the motion.
Okay.
And that's my second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, that's great. We will move on to item number 8.7. Discussion and possible action on the adoption of the resolution that would authorize the next issuance of GO bonds.
Yes, so now that you guys have approved all these amazing projects, we have to put some more money in the bank. So this item will, if you approve the resolution, will allow the district to go forward with the second issuance of GO bonds for up to $9 million. And attached to this report is the resolution that you'll be approving, along with the preliminary official statement, which is basically the document that we give to investors who might want to purchase the bonds. The paying agent agreement, which is with Sacramento County Treasury, which they already have our first issuance in the bank. They will also be our paying agent for this second issuance. the bond purchase agreement, which is the terms of the sale of the bonds to the underwriter, and then the continuing disclosure certificate, which just says that we will disclose any pertinent financial information over the life of the bond. We're asking you to approve this resolution for the sale of the general obligation bonds not to exceed $9 million. I believe when we talked to the bond advisors yesterday, they indicated that the sale would be in May, so it'll be pretty quick. And that's it, unless there's any questions.
Do we have any idea of, in this economy right now, where people that have bonds are lucky, but with stocks and everything else low, is the money going to be put into speculation on those stocks going back up? Do we have any idea whether we're going to get a better interest rate or a worse interest rate with the timing?
After talking to the financial advisor on this, John Isom, he is believing that we will get a lower interest rate.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, I have, or maybe Jennifer, in the preliminary official statement, who preps that? Is that Tallman and Associates, or is it
our bond counsel?
So just something I wanted to point out was on page 2, it talks about the district not funding a debt service reserve fund for the bonds, but then on page 5 and on page 11, it talks about the taxes will be deposited, or when the collection occurs, it's going to be deposited into a debt service fund. So it makes 2 different statements. So if you could just clarify that with them. And I know the last time they came, they gave us a very detailed, we talked about that. I remember talking about the debt service fund, but I don't recall which direction it was going, whether we were going to have one or whether we were not going to have one. And since the document kind of implies both here,
we'll clarify that.
Okay, thank you. And then Mike, were you able to check in with John Isom over the dissemination agent documents that he asked, or that he had in here, where he attached the notice of failure to file the annual report? Because I know that we saw the annual report, the board saw it, and then I also know the oversight committee saw it, and you said that had already been submitted.
Right. Yeah, we have submitted it for the year. We're in compliance with that.
Okay.
And then we will be doing the next one next year on it. So
Okay.
There was one expenditure on that report that you saw.
Sure.
So it was a pretty easy.
I remember it being very brief.
Yeah, it was very brief.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 041520-04, the issuance and sale of election of 2018 general obligation bonds, series 2020, and approving related documents and actions with respect thereto.
I'll second.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, seeing that there's none, we'll move on. Agenda item 8.8, discussion and possible action on approval of proposed clubhouse renovations as part of the Village Plaza Park revitalization project.
Yeah, we'll let Sean take this one. And Sean, actually, before Sean goes on, I'd like to actually give you some background information that wasn't part of the report here, and I think it'll be very helpful to you. And it's the budget estimation, and I'm going to share my screen real quick so you can see that. So you should be able to see that now. And this is really what you're seeing, just a 30,000 foot review of the budget and where we're at with Measure J money. These are estimations. The only one that's not an estimation will be the PIP. That one, we actually finished that up. So this one right here is not an estimation. But the rest of these are estimations. And some of these, the theater you just approved, the clubhouse you will be hearing later tonight. Phoenix is if we do the ball fields and the parking, that's our estimation at this point in time. And the pump track and Swallowway, which you've approved. Comes out to be a total of about 21 million. So that's what you have right now in expenditures. And that's if all of these are approved, including the clubhouse at 1.3 million. So just so you know where you're at with the 26.9 million, there's a balance of about $5.8 million. Projects not estimated yet include the community center, the old library, which we are working on. You will see that project come up in May, and potentially La Vista, where the softball fields may go. That would reduce the Phoenix one by some amount. I do not think you would see a lesser amount total, because you still would need to develop that property in Phoenix, and it includes parking still, and then you still would have softball fields. So this figure would not be reduced, more than likely, if we built La Vista fields. It would probably be increased because we do softball fields here and parking and other items up here in Phoenix. So we don't have those figures, not even close yet. So the best we've got right is a balance of 5.8 million. So just so you have that information.
So does the 21,060,000, does that figure include the interest we're earning when money sits in the bank?
Great question, and no, it does not. So there are some other funds still, potentially coming in on these bond funds. I believe we're about, and I wish Mario was here, but I believe it's about 800,000 right now that we've received an interest for the money that we have. So we're just sitting back on that, and that's generally what we would be using that funds for, is those ancillary projects like you talked about earlier, Director Carhart, and some of those things like that. Those funds then would hopefully be distributed in those types of places. And no other questions, I'll let Sean take it from there.
Hi again, Sean Ventura, Park and Facilities Manager. Sorry to repeat that. Just gonna share my screen here in a second to show you the estimates we have on the projects we've identified as important for the clubhouse. You'll see that, get it up here real quick. You will see that the projects, I would have just read them to you, but it's a pretty long one. Projects don't just take place within the clubhouse, but in the area immediately surrounding it as well. Some visual modifications to continue.
I'm sorry, you have the wrong document up there. I'll share screen because you'll see at the first one, A, you don't have the figures in there.
Okay, you want to? I'll give it to you.
Yeah, go ahead and let me share if you would.
As soon as I figure out how to stop sharing.
Don't we in our packet? I think we all have this document in our board packet. The pricing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the public can see it.
Ah.
Correct figure here. Here we go.
Well, Mike, while you get that up, then I'll just keep talking. Some visual modifications to keep the outbuildings of the clubhouse in line with the theme we're moving towards with the amphitheater and the roof we already put on the clubhouse. Primarily, it's to increase saleability of that as a rental space and enable better ADA access and improve structural integrity of the community clubhouse. Our goal here is to not only improve the experience that users have, but make sure the community clubhouse lasts for a good long time. These projects, we've gone through a walkthrough with staff and with WNB architects, and we've identified them as the most important for those goals we have there. The project in total, we've estimated at 1,340,000, or 1,340,000, yes. And that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, feel free.
I do. So if we're doing, we're spending $6 million on the playhouse over there. Do we really need to do the lighting in the clubhouse? Is that really make sense to do, to spend all that money for the lighting there for the stage?
I think it's the room lighting, which is pretty crappy.
Yeah, it is the room lighting, primarily the room lighting. There's
Yes.
also some for the stage.
That is correct answer.
Doesn't it say stage lighting somewhere? Did I just make
Oh
that?
yeah, number 24 as well. It doesn't change the fact that it is a very useful space and it has very crummy lighting currently. We're still going to continue doing silent movie nights and other organ recitals there. And whether or not New Star goes to it, the new facility over at the amphitheater remains to be seen. To ignore the stage, I think would not serve us well.
Well, on that, how much and I understand what's there, but if the stage were not there, or if we were to say take out the stage, it becomes one, flat thing. How much more space, how much more square footage, usable space would we have?
I don't have the exact
Oh no.
Losing Tom.
numbers.
Sean, it sounds like you're breaking up quite a bit there.
Sean, pause yourself.
For that, but it would require destroying the organ.
Yeah, I understand.
Can
So
you hear me?
I heard the organ part. So what did you say before that? You were going very. We couldn't understand you. Oh. Is he gone?
Okay. Everything just refreshed for me. I do not have an accurate measurement of the stage there. Even if we tried to remove the center of the stage, there's organ components underneath it. So I'm sorry to say I don't have a measurement of the space available there.
Okay. Because and for the rest of you directors, I really would love to know your honest thoughts, because I've really been thinking about this, and I mean, we do so little with that organ. And if there were a way that we could donate that organ, and if the space where the organ is taking up could be a viable space to make that space much more usable and much more rentable and, provide just more income, to me, that would be something that I think would be worthwhile looking into versus keeping a stage that is not as beneficial and serves less purpose.
Well, I don't know. The organ is such a unique treasure there, and loved by so many people. I think the better direction would be to make better use of it, make more concerts, more use, and even if we had to subsidize to get the use of it, I think you'd run into a lot of opposition to want to take that out. And like Sean said, it's embedded in, it's kind of like the organs in your body, it's embedded everywhere.
So Sean, could that organ not be taken out at all without it being destroyed? It would have to be destroyed to be taken out?
I'm not being an expert in it, I can't tell you for sure, but I would say fairly confidently that it would likely.
It had been moved once from its previous location at Cal Expo, and it was originally in a theater in the Bay Area, but it's one of very few existing old theater organs. So I don't know.
Ralph,
I would
as just the demographic and things are changing in Fair Oaks. I mean, even with the demographic that we have in Fair Oaks, it's not used. It's not utilized except for very little. And I'm just trying to think of how can we make the clubhouse a space that makes the most sense, where we can get the most use out of it for the majority of Fair Oaks and our community. That's my only question and thought.
I would agree with Raymond, is that he raises a good point. I've lived here in Fair Oaks for 50 years, almost 50 years. And I spent a lot of time in the community center, but I've never heard an organ concert in the community center. And that's, maybe that's my fault. But if there was a way that we could improve the space in the community center to attract more different uses, just kind of like the same thing we're trying to do with the amphitheater, I'm all for that. The demographic is changing. I mean, Ralph, you and I, we're the graying herd, and there's a lot of young folks that are moving in, and maybe they're organ aficionados, or maybe they would rather hear just cellos or violins. I'm not sure what they want to hear, but it's at least worth looking into, and probably a rain of bad things are going to come down on both of us for even suggesting that, Raymond. But
I don't think so. I mean, I'd say I'd welcome it. I mean, if it turns out there's a huge community that is so diehard, I want to hear from them. I mean, I'd like to hear from them. But I mean, right now, if you want to hear a really great organ concert or hear one in Fair Oaks, you can go to the Fair Oaks Presbyterian. They have an amazing organ, and they do organ things all the time, and it's a great asset in the community, as I know ours is as well. But again, when it comes to that community and that larger thing, I think John makes a good point that it's worth exploring.
Well, I do agree with you. It's very underutilized, and I've heard it many times in many venues, and it doesn't always have to be for silent movies. But the thing I would ask is, what would we gain from taking that out? A little bit bigger stage area up there?
Well, my thought was,
what would we gain?
My thought was no stage, that we make it flat. So that way, again, it's a bigger space that you can, a bigger multi-purpose space that you could utilize. And of course, if it turns out it's not much at all, then, I don't care. But if it does turn out that it does give some more space to get rid of it and to flatten it, and that we have more possibilities of just doing more things there, then that's what I am interested in discovering and finding out.
Yeah, it might gain some capacity. It wouldn't be a whole lot more space, but it might gain some capacity. But it's not going to bring it up to the capacity that would be, significant, like having, like Divine Savior or the St. Mel's facility or some of the others. It wouldn't be a major step up. Anyway, it's worth looking at, but I sure don't think it offers a lot of benefits, and it does take away something unique from the community.
If I could, when we do that pro forma, we can ask those kinds of questions as well during the pro forma period, and see if the organ can be a revenue producer, used more, whatever the case may be, or if it makes sense to potentially take it out and expand the surface area of the clubhouse.
I would like to see that very clearly laid out in the pro forma. My other thing as well, Sean, I just want to make sure with the audio and visual upgrades, that's down sound upstairs, that 40 to 60, even 60, to be honest, to me seems really low. I just want to make sure we really do have great audio, really good sound system, Bluetooth capabilities where one can, do a presentation from their phone, a really top of the line projector. So that way, again, people can really utilize it. I just want to make sure that it's just hook, line, and sinker. John?
Yes, of course. I'm right there with you.
Just a point of interest, I remember it wasn't too long ago that we didn't even have a retractable screen, and you had to use a karaoke machine for amplifying speakers. So we've come a long ways, but one of the things that I hope we get there, and I guess we'll get, is devices for people that are hard of hearing, so that they're tied into, and the capability of Bluetooth and at one time we looked at a projection system there, but it would be too difficult to maintain. It's better to have people bring their own and be able to tie in. One other comment is the back steps on the theater are in pretty dilapidated condition, and in the budget I don't see any work that might be done on those in the dumpster area.
Number 21 there.
Oh, okay, very good, thank you. I just didn't see it.
my only comment would be on those two lighting lines. You know, most of these cost discrepancies are fairly tight, but, you know, like on line 24, you know, you go from a $35,000 to $125,000, and the same thing on line 3. It's a fairly big discrepancy as well. So why such a big gap there between low and high?
Yeah, so line 2 and line 24. Yeah, okay. You know, I can't answer that. It's probably just, you know, are we doing adequate or are we doing great? You know, that would be my guess on it. And these are estimations. You're going to see more solid dollar figures and processes come out of this. And this gives us that working budget, again, that $1.3 million gives us that working budget to work within. And then these figures will start finalizing as we get deeper and deeper into it. So it could be that, you know, half of that amount, or if we're not doing the stage lighting, you know, it would be less, and those types of things like that. So there could definitely be changes in this. It may be an A versus the top end versus just a new light bulb.
Okay.
Well, the original clubhouse, I think, cost us $500. So prices have gone up since then. And that price included the land.
Is
For a
this,
motion?
do we need a motion? Would someone like to make a motion to support the staff recommendation of using 1.3
I'm happy to do
for
that.
Measure J?
Once again, you know, with the caveat that take into consideration all the comments.
So given the low cost and the high cost, we're approving the high cost. Does that mean we go catalog on everything, or that's a not to exceed?
Well, that's a budget just like for the theater. That gives us a working budget to work within. And so then these things start kind of falling into place as we work with that $1.3 million. You know, if you said, hey, let's hit let's $890,000 for an example on the budget, we would work this projects around, not do some of them with the lowest possible denominator, and we would see an $890,000 renovation to the inside of the clubhouse. So you're seeing estimations, and it's hard to kind of say, is it going to really cost us $125,000 for the theater lighting? Well, we can't say that yet, not until we get deeper into the dive. These are the estimations that allowed us to bring a figure to you that we felt comfortable with.
Well, if we approved $1.1 million, we would spend $1.1 million. If we approve $1.3 million, we'll spend $1.3 million, right? So there probably isn't much likelihood of savings, but I think it's money well spent.
I mean, I don't think the district is going to just say, let's, you know, get a Cadillac on everything. I mean, we're going to be financially smart. And I mean, I would believe that the district will come back to us and let us know, you know, progresses and how things are pricing, because I definitely don't like the idea of spending $125,000 on theatrical lighting, whereas I think it would be more sensible to spend $80,000 on audio and visual. So that's my feeling.
Right, and you will see that process start kind of ferreting itself out as we bring it forward to you as a board. So yeah, you'll see those things come in. Some of them you may not. For an example, you know, the assisted listening devices, you know, those are something we're probably just going to end up purchasing. We're probably not going to see those come back, but these larger picture items, yes, you're going to see them come back to you.
And just an FYI to everybody, if we get rid of the stage, 24 becomes a moot point. Just an FYI.
All right, is there a second to John's motion?
I'll second.
And are there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to make? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, aye. Any opposed? All right, seeing there are none, we will move on to item 8.9, discussion and possible action on letter of support for payroll credits for local government.
This one we took off because it was
Oh.
past its
Okay.
due date.
Okay. Then we will go to, let's see.
Don't we have anything else we can spend some millions on?
My poll read done. I don't know if anyone wants to help with that.
So we'll go to 8.10, which is just a receive and file of the submission to the controller's office for the government compensation report.
Yes, this is our annual mandated report that we send to the controller's office every year. This is to guard against taxpayer fraud and to be transparent with the public about how their money is being spent on salaries. So this, the attachment is what gets submitted to the state controller's office. And this is just for you to see it, ask any questions prior to it being filed. All right.
Any questions? All right. Okay, so we are going to move into item 9, which is a public hearing. So we're going to, well, for the public hearing, I have something, a way to, I guess, to bring us into the public hearing, if that's the right way to say it. So the public hearing tonight is to essentially allow the district to continue the ballot proceedings and allow property owners in Gum Ranch, the Gum Ranch zone of benefit B, to decide whether an assessment should be approved to increase their annual assessment to pay for the improvement and maintenance of proposed new open space and recreational land. Before I go on, Jennifer, do I need to move in? Do we need to do a move into it, like a motion to move into the public hearing?
You have to open
I
the
would,
public hearing.
Then we will move into.
yeah, I would move to open the public
Okay.
hearing
Thank you.
regarding a new zone of benefit and the levy of increased assessments within the Gum Ranch Landscape and Lighting Assessment District Zone of Benefit B for fiscal year 2021.
Thank you, Ralph. A second,
I'll second.
and all in favor of moving to public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. None opposed. So this public hearing, it will give the property owners and residents another opportunity to attain additional information about this proposed assessment increase and the improvements, and then to also allow individuals to provide any additional input or comments to the district. At the end of the public input portion of this public hearing, the balloting period will close. So the procedure for today's public hearing will move as follows. First, we will hear reports from district staff about the proposed services and improvements, as well as the ballot proceeding. And then next, we will open the public hearing so the public can then speak about the measure, ask questions, submit comments, or protest. So if you would wish to speak or you have questions, the best methods to be utilized would be to, if you're attending the meeting right now on Zoom, to please submit a comment that you'd like to speak to the board by using the chat feature, the one on the right, and then the meeting monitor, which is Ian, will inform me that you would like to speak. For those written comments that are using the chat feature, we will read those into the record. If you are listening on the phone and you happen to be outside the district office, which is located at 4150 Temescal Street, Fair Oaks, California, you may fill out a speaker card, which is posted in an envelope on the front door, and place the completed card in the mail slot. And our board clerk, which is Jennifer, will collect those and read them into the record prior to the hearing being closed. Further, if you are participating just on the phone and you would like to speak, please dial *9 during the comment period, and our meeting moderator will inform me that you would wish to comment. At the close of our the public input portion of this hearing, staff will answer any questions that have been raised, and then after the questions are answered, in light of our shelter in place order, which I know will make it, or possibly has made it more difficult for members of the public to participate in this public hearing, the board will consider a motion to continue the public hearing until May 20th. This, the intent is to give the public more time to another additional month, essentially, to ask questions, make comments before the balloting process is completed. So if staff could now make their presentation to the public.
Point of clarification.
Oh, yes.
If the board so wished at the end, though, to make a motion to approve the assessment, that is feasible, correct? Versus moving it to the next meeting, because I don't think anyone's voted on it being moved to the next meeting.
No, it wouldn't, because
No.
you need the ballots, and the ballots are not here, and you have to officially open those ballots. It's a different motion to actually open those ballots.
Okay, so the ballots have been collected, they just have not been recorded, is that correct?
Correct. They will only be done in your meeting when we have a impartial, basically, person here to open those ballots.
Okay, thank you for the point of clarification.
So is it Sean?
Sean will be
Is doing the presentation? Oh, here he
Uh,
is.
Yes, thank you. Again, Sean Ventura, Park and Facilities Manager. So I'm going to try once more to share my screen, hopefully successfully this time. And you'll see here the overall map of Gum Ranch and the additional parcels we're looking to gain. The green is the current footprint of Gum Ranch Park, and the tan sections are the new land acquisitions. Our estimates on maintenance of this new area, and hence the newer rate for the assessment, are due to the fact that it is an addition of land which is nearly as much as the current park footprint. In addition, due to the construction of what you see there in the upper right that says Lot G, the large detention pond there was a great deal of construction happening all along the north bank of that creek, which sits right, the 3 lines running right through the center of that map there. As such, the landscape there was, for lack of a better term, blasted. It's a dirt road right now. Everything up to the edge of the creek was stripped bare, pretty much. Using this increased assessment, our goals are, and the way we would outlay these funds would be in rehabilitation of this area, primarily restoring the oak grove there, rehabilitating that scorched earth section that is just a dirt road at this point. It would require a significant outlay of materials and staff time to get it back up to an acceptable open space grove. This increased assessment would potentially also add additional features north of the creek once a significant plan was created to get pedestrian access across that creek. Primarily, the funds would be utilized at this point for landscaping and rehabilitation purposes, and the additional infrastructure needed to keep that greenery alive out there. I think that about covers it. The final plans of what we will do, excuse me, what we will do with the north side of that creek are as yet undecided, and we'll of course come back to you all once we've had further discussion on it. If you have any other questions on specifics of where funds would go with this increased assessment, I'm right here.
Sean, I wanted to point out one of the things we were looking at for the water quality basin was it's a fenced flat area there, and it's only very occasionally going to have any water flow. We were looking at the possibility of a second dog park, Note that there's a lot adjacent to it that has not been built on yet. They've built all the way to that next cul-de-sac, and they're digging foundations for the rest around the cul-de-sac next to our water quality basin. Just concerned that if we do plan to do something there, we make our plan known before somebody buys that house, so we don't run into a lot of problems.
Yeah, and to speak to that, Ralph, I was out there myself today, and they are actually digging foundations over in that small section next to our water quality basin as of this afternoon.
All right.
Not sure what that means for any potential plans for that section at this point. But to answer your first point there, we are still in communication and talks with the Department of Water Resources. We're forming up a joint use agreement that will outline what we can and what we can't do with that water quality basin, and what we are required to do as far as maintenance and what the Department of Water Resources is required to do. That's something that we are still unsure what the end product will look like. They have some restrictions on what you can do in those, only because they need it there to maintain water quality, and the flow of water can be inhibited by depending on what we put in there. So we haven't closed any doors on what the plans for that basin will be, and as soon as we hear from the Department of Water Resources when we start that joint use agreement rolling, then we'll inform.
Sean, who are you working with down at the county?
I believe the last gentleman I spoke with was Michael Durkee.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
I'm still doing quite a bit of work with the county, and if I can help in some way, let me know. From the director all the way on down.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Sean. And I don't know if the dog park is compatible with a water quality basin or not. There's also been interest that I've heard in maybe some community orchard, community garden type stuff. So there's a number of neighborhood interests that when we finally decide how to utilize that property, we'll probably, I assume, have some public workshops.
I'd also like to let everyone know that we have Susan Barnes from SCI on the call, or joining us via phone. So if anyone has questions regarding the balloting process or anything else, she can answer them too.
And that's all I've got. If there are no other questions, I'll pass it on to someone else.
Thank you, Sean. Does anyone have any other questions or thoughts that they'd like to raise? Jennifer says that we have no public comments that have come into the office. So if there's anyone, I don't see any other comments on our chat feature here on Zoom. So I think if we have any other public speakers, please reach forward or reach out now. So let's see. And again, if there's anyone on the phone, the best way to participate is to dial *9. Oh. Okay, I don't see anyone. Ian, do you see anyone dialing in? Okay. So we will.
You now need a motion to extend the public hearing till.
Yes.
Till
Thank
May.
you,
May
20th.
Till May 20th.
May 20th to allow more time for public input on this matter.
If we didn't make that motion, what would happen? Or if that motion were voted down, what would happen?
We would probably close the public hearing now, but if there were people that didn't hear about this, I think the main reason we would extend it is just to allow an opportunity for any of the people within that proposed assessment district to weigh in on it. It probably wouldn't carry a lot of votes, but it would alleviate any concern that people might have that they didn't hear about it or they didn't have time to comment.
I agree with Ralph. I think one of my concerns is that since this is the first time we've done a meeting like this before, and maybe people weren't comfortable or not able to dial in, I think it would be a courtesy to extend it to next month.
I honestly do not think that we are going to get anything next month that we aren't getting tonight, to be perfectly honest. And I know that this originally was on the agenda, if I recall, that was canceled. And I'm curious if there were any people that had made a mention or contacted the district, or if anybody yet so far has contacted the district about this item.
You're probably correct. It's just that is there any urgency to do this now? And it sounded like from what Mike said, we can't do this without tallying the votes and having an unbiased, disinterested party there to do that.
That could be done though by next meeting. Is that not correct?
No, it has to be done in a public meeting. The ballots have to be counted in public in the meeting.
So then the ballots could be counted at the next meeting, and then we could also make the motion at that next meeting to then approve it and close it. Okay, so really there isn't a benefit to not extending it. Correct? To not extending public comment.
Not that I can see.
Okay.
Well, and what happens if we're still under this shelter in place next meeting?
I've given that some thought, and we would have at least 2 of these meetings, and hopefully the public would feel comfortable enough where there wouldn't be any kind of hesitation in participating by that second meeting.
Online?
Yeah.
Plus, they have the opportunity to submit things in writing if they hear about this in between times. So,
Well, yes,
so with that, I suppose we could continue this in further discussion. I'd make a motion that we extend the public hearing period until, Jennifer, help me, was it May 20th?
Yes, May 20th.
2020.
Yep.
Before we vote on the motion, what kind of outreach was provided to the landowners of the area, just out of curiosity?
They all received ballots in the mail with all of this information.
Okay, thank you.
Have we actually received those ballots back already?
We have
Some?
received some, yes. I don't know. We may have received all we're going to get, but yeah.
Do we know if we've received one from Elliott Homes yet?
We are not allowed to open them until
Oh, I see.
we don't know who sent them.
Okay, thank you. So I made a motion. Is there a second on that?
I would second the motion. Second the motion to continue the hearing until May 20th.
Any other comments or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, seeing that there's no opposition, we will move to our very last, we'll leave public hearing. And do I need to make a motion to leave the public hearing? Or I guess you just did well, that was to extend it. To continue, yeah. Do we need Jennifer to make a motion to return to our regular scheduled board meeting? No. Okay. Okay, so we will move on to item 10, which is board and staff reports. So beginning with 10.1, items from board directors. So who would like to go first?
I have nothing to report.
Okay.
I have nothing to report.
I'll just say I went to the California Recreation and Park conference, and I went with Mike, and several of the other staff members were there, and it was a really wonderful conference to go to. And I don't know if any of my other fellow directors have been, but it was really interesting to meet other people in this profession and other directors, and sit in on a lot of really, really interesting talks and different presentations that it really gave me a lot of really great insight and ideas, and just ways for us to continue to assist Mike, and just seeing what other rec and park districts are doing. So it was a really great opportunity to go, and it was great to spend some more time with our amazing team.
Ralph?
I don't have anything to add other than this was a very effective meeting, and seems like we're all on the same page pretty much about everything. So thank you, whoever put all the work into setting this up. You did a good job. The only thing is I couldn't figure out how to get my picture in here, and that probably is a benefit to all of you.
Well, I'd like to, okay, thank you, Ralph. I'd like to thank Mike and the staff for kind of all the crazy movement that's been going on with COVID-19. And I really think that a lot of the ideas that have you've come forward with, like the virtual recreation center that's online, I think there's been a lot of social media posts from Christy, and I know it's involved. I feel like I keep getting phone calls. I know one of the classes one of my kids was in had to be canceled, and got a phone call right away. So, and also I have, my daughter is currently taking the theater class, the New Star Theater class, and they are still rehearsing The Little Mermaid. They do it on Zoom twice a week. I mean, you see 15 kids together singing The Little Mermaid on Zoom. It's quite adorable. And I think it kind of goes to show the dedication, I think, of the instructors and the vendors that that the district utilizes, because it's very clear that they care about the kids and the community. And oh, and I thought the virtual egg hunt was very adorable too. So thank you for doing that, because I know that now it's hard to be inside all the time and not be out and be with the community. So I really appreciate the effort that's being put in to create keep that feeling of community, even though we can't all be together. So thank you.
Thank you, Delinda, for saying that. All the credit goes to the rec supervisors and part-time rec staff that are still working. So Christy and then Daniel Catalica, just as a mention, have been instrumental in creating that. We were actually highlighted on a statewide thing for our
cool.
center. So very cool. So
and one last thing. The corny joke hotline that was set up was amazing. And
that's Sabrina Bernardo and her son Caden, actually. So people actually called her for that hour, and they sat in her house and made corny jokes. So, one of them was Delinda.
Yes, my Bo insisted on calling, and then he sat there and talked to Sabrina for 5 minutes and listened to all of the corny jokes, and it was great. And he was just laughing, and he just thought it was the funniest thing. It was a Friday afternoon, and it was kind of a great way to end our homeschooling week, if you will, because that's a new thing at our house. So yeah, I appreciate the creativity. It's really great.
And what you guys don't see is we're also doing a virtual rec or a preschool program. It's not a full preschool, but it's a option for the preschool students to still be engaged throughout the day.
That's great.
So do we have items from staff?
Yeah, if you would, I want to basically congratulate and praise all of the staff, the recreation staff. They immediately went into a model that we've never done before, which is the work from home, and still be able to perform admirably, and being able to take those adaptations immediately and become successful with them. Our park crew out there now in the parks, and you hear a lot about these folks that are out there exposing themselves to issues. That's our park crew. They're out there every day in the parks exposing themselves to potential hazards, and they're doing that for the public. And so I do appreciate all of them. I specifically want to thank the management team for the ability to adapt and to perform in a really stressful situation. this is stressful. You're going to hear a little bit here in a bit about our budget and how how stressful that is for all of us involved, and how hard it is for us to get through this. We've made more major decisions in 3 weeks than I've ever made in my life. So it is the credit to the management team for being able to get together and assist us and all of us in coming up with these incredibly hard decisions that we have to make for the safety of the public, for our staff, and for the health of our district.
And you're all doing a great job. And we certainly appreciate, you know, everything, every employee and volunteer and everybody, all of our community partners, everybody that's stepping up and, you know, supporting the effort.
And I think, Jennifer, you have some stuff.
Yes, mine's not the fun, warm, and fuzzy stuff. So we want to give you a little budget update, considering that we've been closed down for about a month, and it is going to impact our budget, and we didn't want you to be surprised at the end of the fiscal year. But we are working on ways to mitigate it. So right now we're looking at probably about $175,000 in unrealized rec revenue and about $55,000 in facility revenue. We're not anticipating a loss in tax revenue this year. We're part of the TEETR program. The county gives us our full distribution and then collect any delinquent taxes on the back end and then keep the fees for that. So we'll get our full tax revenue. We've identified about $89,000 in expenditure savings just from not doing programs and paying instructors and all that kind of stuff. So that leaves us with about $140,000 shortfall, worst case scenario. That may not happen. We may see savings in other areas that we're not anticipating, but we do have $48,000 left in our contingency, and if we need to, the $93,000 balance will have to come out of our carry forward fund balance. However, there are options that we're looking at for mitigation. Like I said, FEMA, which is the thing everybody thinks of when you think of emergency funding. We may get some funding from them. It won't be quick and it won't be a lot, but we may get reimbursed for some of the costs of the things that we've had to do, like cleaning our facilities and, I don't know, producing signs and things like that were ordered by the governor. We're still hoping to get something from one of the government stimulus bills. The fourth one is supposed to include local government. I don't know how far that's going to trickle down, if that's going to get to us or not, but we hope it will. There's a lot of lobbying going on through CSDA and some other agencies in California looking at things like trying to get payroll credits for the emergency sick leave that we had to provide from the federal government. Potentially we could file an insurance claim through Capri for revenue loss. This is a disaster, and so we're looking into that. There are a couple of options for loans if we need short-term bridge funding. One of them is called community disaster loans. Those are great. There's a 0 interest rate, short-term financing, and 90% of them turn into grants, so you don't have to pay them back. However, that's not been activated for COVID-19 yet, as far as I know, but we're keeping our eye out. And then through CSDA, there's another short-term financing program that we can apply for and that we've got the application for. We're looking at it now to see if it makes sense for us. Any revenue that we get would be coming into next fiscal year, but then we would just reimburse our savings accounts with that money and hope that our revenues that we generate over the next year would pay that back. So you'll see any of these things come back to you as we find out more about them. So
Jennifer, quick question or statement really on the insurance claim, the loss of income. I don't know if we have that coverage in our policy. Regardless of if we do or we do not, we should definitely file for that. A lot of insurance companies are not covering that right now. However, I do know it's going to major litigation.
Good.
And that I think it's going to probably go to the California Supreme Court, if not the U.S. Supreme Court on that. So we'll definitely want to make sure that we showed that we did put a fund in case there is some sort of class action lawsuit or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thought, I know this is going to be a really tough summer and fall, Has there been any thinking about whether we go ahead with the Chicken Festival? Because I know that does have a significant cost to it, to the district. I can't remember what the figure is, but it seems like it was around $15,000 or $20,000 we expend above and beyond what we take in.
Yeah, I mean, we've been in dialogue, I'm guessing from day one, about our major events. We're watching carefully what could or could not possibly happen. And at this point, we're not willing to make any kind of commitment either way to the event, other than the fact that it's on the calendar and we could be doing it. But there's so many unknown variables right now that we just aren't capable of making that decision. We're going to try and make it. The governor did come out yesterday with some comments about events as small as 100 people and up to thousands of people. And we'll see what the state also comes up with. We have to follow a lot of those guidelines. And so we're watching carefully. No decisions have been made, though. Okay.
I was talking, just for information, I was talking to the cemetery district today about the, I believe it's the May 23rd Memorial Day celebration. And they're going to have flags up and things on the graves, but they're going to have a drive-through where you drive through the cemetery with some music and stuff so that they keep the event alive, but no public gathering. So I imagine if you listen to the governor, there probably could be some modifications of our event, hold it and have various modifications. Undoubtedly, it's going to affect us. That's it. Thank you.
And I just also wanted to, I know Mike was going to say this, but I think you might have forgotten. The Employees Association had submitted a request for a COLA back in March, and following all this stuff, they rescinded their request. So we just wanted to give them kudos and thank them for kind of recognizing the financial position of the district, and appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer, for covering that. I did have it on my list, and I had to, somehow I had skipped on it.
I just had one item as a reminder. If you guys want to send a video about Marianne, Nick sent the first one today, and it worked well, the file sharing that he did, and it came through great, and it was quite a tearjerker. So I imagine it'll be a tearful video once it's all said and done, but I'm trying to finish up that video by the end of next week, maybe a little bit after that, just so I can have some time to put it all together, because I'm not a video expert, but I know it'll mean a lot to Marianne. So, and if you would like to still contribute in any way, shape, or form, we're giving her a basket with some stuff we've collected already that represents Fair Oaks, or something that reminds you of Marianne that she can take with her on her travels to her new house. Terry O'Donnell from the Racket Club got a reprint of a Hugh Gorman painting or drawing, a massive, beautiful thing, and it gave it to Marianne. Well, she doesn't know that yet, so it's a good thing she's not on the call. But we're also collecting cash, which will go into a gift card, or you can drop a gift card off at the office. The admin staff that goes there once a day will put that in the safe. And we're going to give it all to her before she leaves. So if you'd like to do anything, although you don't have to.
Thanks for organizing that, Katie. Is Sean still on the line? Does he, Sean, if you're there, do you have anything you'd like any items?
I have no official items. I will just say that it's a little odd out there in the parks when they're empty. Everything's looking beautiful and growing great, and my staff are still working very hard on keeping everything ready for when we open back up again, and we get people back out in the parks. We're going to have to start thinking creatively to keep everything nice and sanitized for the new norm everybody keeps talking about.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Delinda, you've done a beautiful job. You look like you should be a judge there on the screen. So maybe one day. You did an excellent job of doing this. I'm so glad you're the chair this year.
One thing I wanted to add really quick was obviously, look, this is unprecedented times that we're all in, and this is difficult for everybody. So, heartfelt, wishes to everybody in the staff, and it has to be even that much more difficult when this is your livelihood, running parks and being outdoors and seeing empty parks like that. One thing that Mike and I sort of talked offline about today was when we do get the green light to reopen, to try and reach out. We talked about reaching out to the governor because one of the things he keeps mentioning is reopening the parks and getting things up and going, and how important our local parks are to the communities that we all serve. And it's an outside chance, but he's a Fair Oaks resident. Maybe we could throw some celebration of when we do reopen the parks, and who knows, maybe he makes an address from one of our parks where he lives. So I would like to see some sort of organization for when we do get that green light, and we can have everybody together and celebrate the fact that our parks and facilities are reopening to the public.
That's a great idea. I love that idea. Mm-hmm.
Great, Darren.
Anything else anyone would like to discuss? Any other items?
It's dinner time.
Yes, yes. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn to the meeting of, would that be May 20th, is it? Motion to adjourn till May 20th.
Hopefully face to face, or in the
It's
same
nice
room.
to see you guys. It's really nice to see you even on the screen. And if I could figure out how to do my picture, you'd have to put up with me.
I'll second Ralph's motion. Ralph, bottom left of your screen says start video.
Oh yeah? All I got there is, well, I'll
depends
figure
on
it out
the
by
device.
next month.
Well,
It's right in the
Oh, there
middle.
you are.
You see
Oh my
me?
God.
Oh my God. I better put my pants on, right?
I think those are all the records from the 75 years of Fair Oaks Park behind him.
Mhm.
Oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Okay, well, you guys have a good month, huh?
Motion and second.
All
All
right.
right. All in favor?
I
Aye. None opposed. All right. See you in May. Thank you very much for your
Bye,
time. And thank
everybody.
you everyone for
Bye.
joining us.